again, friends. I'm Clara, and I'm the Associate Director of Farm Operations here at Project Grows. Welcome to episode 5 in our Signs of Spring series. Today we'll be exploring the 3 different places on the farm where we grow our plants: the high tunnels, the greenhouse, and into the ground outside. Then we're going to discuss some of the advantages to growing in certain conditions by comparing and contrasting them. As always, we'll get started with a warm-up activity. So, Tiffany, please take it away.
Hi everyone, my name is Tiffany. I'm an occupational therapy student at Murphy-Denman Colleges of Health Science at Mary Baldwin University. I've been working with Project Grows to talk about safety and tips and techniques on the farm. So today I'm going to be talking to you about some safety and some stretches to do before you go outside and play. The important thing about this is to make sure our muscles are awake before we go outside and use them. So we're going to start with some stretches, but I want to say that if you feel any pain, don't do them. Do something different. Alright, so we're going to start at the head. And what you're going to do is you're just going to take your head to the left and to the right. And you're going to do that 10 times. For the video's sake, I'm only going to do 1. The next thing we're going to do is move to the shoulders, and you're going to bring those shoulders up all the way to your ears, and then all the way down. All the way to your ears, and then back down. You're going to do that one 10 times. Next, we're going to move our arms out to the side like we're a bird, and we're just going to rotate them. Then you're going to stop, and you're going to rotate them again. And you're going to do that 10 times going each direction. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go down to the hips. And you're going to pretend like you're hula hooping, and you're just going to rotate your hips around. All the way around in a circle. Okay? You're going to do that a couple of times. The next one we're going to do is we're going to look forward, and you're going to reach up as high as you can toward the ceiling. Reach, reach, reach. And then come back down. And then we're going to reach for your toes. So make sure that your feet are just a little bit together. You want some room, and then you're just going to reach down, touch your toes, and come back up. The last one we're going to do are ankle rotations. So you're going to pull that ankle out, and you're going to spin it like it's a helicopter. Okay? You're going to do the same thing on this side. Remember, all of these stretches you're going to do for about 10 seconds. I want to thank you for joining me today. Now, let's get back to the farm for today's lesson.
If you've been to the Project Grows farm for a field trip before, then you've had the chance to see our 10-acre farm and all the different places where we're growing fruits, vegetables, herbs, and flowers. So we have 3 different spots on the farm where we grow our plants. The first spot is our greenhouse, which is that building right over there. The second spot is our high tunnel, which is this building right here. We actually have 2 high tunnels. We have this one, and we have another one right behind it that I'll show you later. And then the third place where we grow plants is out in the field, in the ground. So today we're gonna show you those 3 different places, and we're gonna compare and contrast the 2 different structures so that you can see the different growing conditions and the different environmental conditions that we have in each place. Okay, let's go. Okay, so here we are in our greenhouse. If you've watched our previous videos, you know that this is where we start our plants until they're ready to be transplanted out into the field. So in here, the plants have everything they need to grow. They have sunlight, they have water, they have soil, air, and lots of space. So inside the greenhouse though, we have to provide the plants with everything that they need. So since you'll notice the plants are growing in these pots, we use potting soil, and we have an overhead irrigation system. That is what waters our plants inside the greenhouse. We also are able to control the temperature in here a little bit better than we would be able to do outside if these were out in the field. So we have a heater back here, so at night if the temperature drops down and it's cold, it'll never go below 50 degrees inside the greenhouse. And then we also have fans for ventilation, and we keep the doors open and the vents on the side open so that during the day when it gets really sunny in here and hot, you can feel it's really hot in here right now, we can make sure that we get a good breeze coming through here so that it doesn't get too hot. So you'll notice that the sides of this structure don't roll up. So we have to rely on the doors and the vents to get that good airflow. So now we're gonna go check out the high tunnel and see what differences you notice between the way that we're growing the plants in the greenhouse and the way that it looks in the high tunnel. Let's go. Okay, so the second place where we grow our crops on the farm is the high tunnel. This is also sometimes called a hoop house. And from the outside, it probably looked pretty similar to the greenhouse. There are some similarities between a high tunnel and a greenhouse. So the first one is this plastic structure that looks really similar from the outside. This helps to protect the plants. It keeps it a little bit warmer in here, and that enables us to start growing earlier in the season. These crops went in the ground in February, and then we can grow even later in the season into the winter. So it really extends our growing season. And then another similarity between the high tunnel and the greenhouse is that we have an irrigation system in here, although it looks a little bit different in the high tunnel. But we have these wobblers, which is basically a sprinkler system that we use to water the plants that are growing in here. Then we also have some ventilation in the high tunnel, just like in the greenhouse. It looks a little bit different in here. So we do have vents, just like we did in the greenhouse, and we have the doors that we can open up. But then in our high tunnel, the sides also roll up. So that gives a little bit extra ventilation in here. Then there's a lot of differences as well between the high tunnel and the greenhouse. So the first one, maybe the most obvious one that you have maybe already noticed, is that the plants in the high tunnel are growing in the ground. So like I said before, we're able to start growing in here really early in the season, and then the plants are going to go through their whole life cycle in here, and we will harvest. We'll cut the lettuce, or we'll dig the carrots, we'll pick the peas off of those plants, and then when these plants are done, we'll put the next plants in the ground. So when these spring crops come out, which is very soon, we'll be putting tomatoes in the ground, and they'll be able to go in the ground a little bit earlier than they would if they were in the field, because they'll be protected by the plastic. So just like in the greenhouse, having this structure keeps it a little bit warmer in here. So when the nighttime temperatures are a little bit cold, we can roll down the sides and tuck everything in, but we don't have a heater in the high tunnel. So that's another difference between the high tunnel and the greenhouse. If it's gonna get cold, it might get a little bit colder in here than it would in the greenhouse. But we can do one other thing for the plants that might not like the cold too much. If they're in the ground in the high tunnel, we can add a layer of row cover. So that's basically like a blanket that we put over top of the bed that just protects the plants a little bit more, keeps it a little bit warmer underneath the row cover. And then also they're underneath the plastic in here. So those are some similarities and some differences between the high tunnel and the greenhouse. Okay, so the third place where we grow plants on the Project Grows farm is outside. So I'm out here in the field with some of our garlic plants. So we choose certain plants to grow in the high tunnel if they're maybe a little bit more sensitive, or if we really want to have them earlier than usual, like tomatoes. Usually when the summertime comes around, everybody's very excited for tomatoes. So we like to start them in the high tunnel a little bit early so that we can start harvesting and eating tomatoes extra early. But for other crops, like our garlic and our onions, we grow those out in the field, and they can handle different temperatures and different conditions, and they usually do really well without the extra protection that the high tunnel provides. So we grow a lot of our plants out in the field, and if you've been to the Project Grows farm and you've been able to walk around, you know that we have more space outside in the field than in the high tunnels. So lots of different crops growing out here, and we'll be planting more and more crops this spring. So now Natalie is going to show us a project that you can do at home if you want to experiment with your own mini high tunnel space.
Hi everybody, this is Natalie Pax, and I'm an AMI Fellow and Food Access Assistant at Project Grows. I'm here at Dixon Educational Center where Project Grows manages the preschool garden here. And as you can see, there is a greenhouse here at the preschool, and it's very similar to the greenhouse that you saw at the Project Grows farm. And here in the greenhouse, we start a lot of plants in the warmer temperatures to get ready to be transplanted in the garden. Today, I'm going to be showing you an experiment that you can do at home to make your own smaller version of a greenhouse. All you're going to need for this experiment is an empty, cleaned out milk jug, a pair of scissors or a utility knife, a Sharpie marker, and several seeds of your choice. For this experiment with you, I'm going to be using bean seeds. What we're going to be making today is called a garden cloche, a portable small greenhouse that you place over plants in order to control the temperature and provide a warmer environment so that the plants can thrive and be protected from colder temperatures. First, after you clean out your milk jug, draw a line with your Sharpie marker around the base of the milk jug about an inch from the bottom. For this part, you're going to want to have a parent or guardian help you, but you're going to cut off the bottom of the milk jug so that it looks just like this. Leave the top on. Once you are in a garden space where you can plant your seeds, as an experiment, plant 2 seeds about a foot apart and cover them lightly with soil. On one of the seeds, place your homemade garden cloche on top of the seed and nestle it into the dirt. You're going to want to build up the soil slightly around it to make sure that it stays in place and remains covered over your seed. Be sure to water your seeds every day for a little bit to make sure they get enough water. And if it's hot or sunny out, you can remove the lid on your garden cloche in order to allow airflow. Be sure to mark in your garden with a popsicle stick or some other indicator to know where you planted your seeds. I suggest keeping a garden journal where every day you can write what you observe and how the plants are growing over time. You can also notice temperature differences between the soil where you just have the seed planted and inside your homemade greenhouse. Remember that greenhouses and high tunnels, including the mini one that you and I made, help to moderate the air temperature, and they can help to keep it warmer and cozy to protect seeds from colder temperatures, and that helps them to grow. Have fun doing this experiment and be sure to record your observations. Bye everybody!